everyone, my name is Lonnie. I am Lady Braven of the Pride, and I am passionate about inspiring, encouraging, and empowering people to be brave during this time of great awakening. And today I have David Pilz with me, and we are going to be talking about his chapter contribution in not only speaking truth to power, but also the brave ascending human consciousness. And he also wrote the foreword for the brave ascending human consciousness. And I'm going to tell you why. But first, I would like to introduce Dave by Dave or David. Do you like Dave or David?
David, because that's what Mom called me.
Okay.
Yeah. and like one of the conversations we're going to have here, you know what? Words are important.
Right.
You know, David is far different than Dave. It's supposed to be the same guy, but it's not, is it? Right. So
right.
When we
I just wanted to clarify that because I just called you Dave, and I was like, well, that's not right. It's David.
I appreciate it. I'll receive it as a term of endearment. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read out your bio.
Okay.
Just to introduce you. David Pilz is a Canadian-born author, speaker, certified master healer, alchemist, shaman, metaphysical doctor, consultant, and instructor who has spent well over 30 years in the metaphysical development field. His published work includes a metaphysical manual series. Oh, I've got those books right here.
Yeah, right over your shoulder there. You have a couple on your bookshelf. Now you see, as an author, it doesn't get better than that.
I have your books right there.
It's within reach, and that's what I wanted. That's why I published it. Thank you for an author. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So his published works include the Metaphysical Manual series, Social Work for the Afterlife, documentaries, endless newspaper articles, interviews, and blogs. His greatest joy is empowering others to achieve their fullest metaphysical potentials, and has literally years of experiential training available to help eager students achieve success. David has fostered a unique relationship with Indigenous communities as a respected bundle carrier and elder, mainly because his own personal communions so closely resemble those teachings. But his ultimate goal is to personally achieve alchemic balance. David continues to offer consultations, treatments, metaphysical tools, and teachings through his thriving practice currently based out of Vancouver, BC. Mm-hmm. Right. Welcome very much, David Pilz, for having this conversation with me and for all of your contributions. How are you today?
I'm amazing. I really am. You know, I choose to look on the side of gratitude always, as not only just because I really am authentically grateful for, you know, who I am and how I am and how my life, you know, lands. And it's not by accident, I promise, but I'm also very grateful. You know, and so, you know, when someone asks me that question, I'm not just answering, yeah, it's okay, because I'm trying to make you feel better, but I'm also in the process of manifesting. I'm in the process of, if you like, casting. Right. You know, one of the things that we talk about in the book here is how in my chapter in that book was how powerful wording is. Yes. You know, and how we really are creating through resonance, through vibration, through frequency, we're creating an outcome in the universe. Right. And so, you know, I could complain up a storm, just like, you know, I'm sure you could too, you know, but, you know, instead I am on purpose choosing to focus on what I can be grateful for. And
I love that.
The more I focus on that stuff that I'm grateful for, the more it accumulates. You know?
Oh, you know what? I've taken so much from you over the years, and thank you for that reminder. When somebody asks me how I'm doing, your response to those words, how are you? How was your day? Your response to those words is actually casting a spell and manifesting your reality in that moment. So whatever you say after those words is what you're going to experience, and that's what your reality is.
Right.
So thank you very much for that reminder. And when I was compiling all of the authors for Speaking Truth to Power, I'm always looking for ways to communicate with more compassion in a way that people can hear me. because quite often I feel like I have this analogy of like standing on a roof or a mountaintop and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs and nobody can hear me because they haven't started climbing their own mountain. And they're so far away from me, they can't hear anything that I'm saying, even though I'm so passionate and I have important information to share and I want to help protect and love people. They can't hear me because they haven't started their own journey, their own climb. And once they do start, like all I look like to them is a crazy woman on top of a mountain waving her arms. And if they're curious, they might see it. And what is that crazy woman doing? And they might start climbing. Yeah. And once they start climbing, then they start to hear a little bit more. It's very, very, very faint. And then they realize that, oh, that sounds like an important message. And they start to resonate with it. And the more they start to resonate with it, the more of a climb that they have to make. So I'm always looking for ways to communicate myself with compassion in a way that people can hear me. And I thought it was Speaking Truth to Power is all about speaking up and holding people in positions of power accountable for their crimes against humanity, but it's also about the different ways of communicating and the different ways of countering the mainstream media narrative. So in this book, I have comedians, I have rappers, I have very prominent doctors who have spoken out. And then I also thought it was very important to include a chapter where we're talking about the power of our words, because every single solitary word has a frequency and a vibration. And like we just said, we are actually manifesting our reality as we speak. So your chapter in this book is called, it's chapter number 15, and it's called Every Word Matters. And it's such a powerful chapter for anybody reading all of these other stories, which are activating the throat chakra and our self-expression and finding our power to speak out. But then it's also so important for us to remember that every single solitary word has so much power behind it. So without giving it too much away, can you please just summarize your ideas and concepts around Every Word Matters in Speaking Truth to Power?
Well, again, you hit it bang on. It's about resonance, it's about frequency, it's about vibration. This English language that you and I are speaking, that is spoken predominantly, most commonly around the planet, is actually technically a bit of a mongrel language. And what I mean by that is, let's go back, for example, to the Sumerian language itself. We know it has 400 characters. Every one of those characters has this legend and a story behind it, like a Mandarin Sanskrit. You know what I'm saying? It's more than just A, B, C, D, E. You know what I'm saying? Because A is A and B is B and C is C in English, right? You know? Whereas if you were speaking Sumerian or even Cree or even Mandarin, you're actually tapping into nuances that, I mean, I'm trying to learn some Mandarin myself right now, and it's very, very easy to get the conversation incorrect just through nuance. Vibration is so powerful, you know. In some of my teachings, they call this the profanity of man, which means that, and it hears you when you're on top of that mountaintop trying to scream and trying to find the words, you know, with the limited vocabulary we have of 26 characters, we're relatively constrained in what we can actually communicate in comparison to if we had 400 characters, right? You know, so already just our toolkit, it doesn't create enough value for us to be able to express what's really going on in our heart, right? You know, and so what is that? How do we communicate that? The words beyond the words, right? You know, how do you take somebody even on a two-dimensional journey and allow them to receive the information that you're trying to express, right? You know, so words are such a, it's all about resonance. It's all about almost song work, and definitely, like we made reference to, it's definitely spell work, right? You know, you are casting. There's, when you're reading even this book, the reading between the lines, you know, reading between the words, right? You know, there's information that is implied, right? You know, and even then, when you read that same chapter, you know, 10 years later, the implications and the assumptions you get from the words between the words, it's going to evolve also, because like you said earlier, it's about their lens, right? You can project the most beautiful, song in the world, but is it falling on, deaf ears, right? And so for me, communication, metaphysically speaking, is everything. Even when I'm teaching psychic awareness and learning how to use a crystal ball, you're not just using one of the clairs. When you're receiving a psychic impression, you're receiving all of the clairs, right? It's not so much just I'm seeing this, it's no, I'm witnessing this with all of my senses. And that's part of the curriculum that I teach, is how to show up with all your senses, rather than just, the typical clairs and the developments that we, experience, casually out there in our communities. Let's show up completely, right? So, in that way, and be present and be in the moments. Like I said earlier about when you ask me how I am, I'm actually going to pay attention to that. I'm actually going to engage in that. And the engagement of that all day and every day is the walk of a wizard, right? It is the walk of, somebody who's likely to get what they're looking for.
Right.
For sure. And I want that for you. I want that for everybody. Truly. And so that was my contribution to this, is just, if I can, maybe even encourage people to start using some of their mother tongues. Some of those old tongues carry juice, metaphysically speaking. Honest to goodness, when I'm around the lodge, I do my very best to only speak that language, right? Because it has power, because it has juice, because it has connection, familiarity with the teachings it comes from, right?
So mother tongues would be like any other, their original cultural language, any other language than English, because in a lot of the other languages, there's so much more, there's more words, there's more sounds, there's more ways of expressing your thoughts.
Yeah.
And you just said something that kind of intrigues me. So
and when we speak with our mother tongue, our genetics respond to that too. Right? Our genetics go back forever, right? And so we speak with our mother tongue. For example, Lithuanian is one of the oldest tongues on the planet.
What is that?
Lithuanian, as in, I'm saying? Lithuania, Poland, right? It's one of the oldest tongues on the planet, but who even knows where Lithuania is, right?
Right.
And so accessing our language from our ancestors allows our genetics to respond again to that casting process I was talking about. When I say certain words, every part of me is then showing up. It's responding to that resonation. It's kind of like when you play really loud music in a room with a piano, every so often the piano is going to hum, isn't it? Right? It's going to make a noise because the chords are picking up the vibration ambiently. And we do exactly the same thing genetically. We literally, pick up.
That brings up an interesting question.
Yeah.
So our ancestors, well, I don't know, who are my ancestors? Like, I mean, it could be any culture.
Right.
It could be part of our ancestors. So whatever resonates with us.
And at this point, probably every culture is the answer. We're all a bunch of mutts. You know what I'm saying? There's very few of us that really are in a place where we can trace that generic. I can chase my family tree back to the 1300s, where the psychic gift was a part of our just everyday stuff, right? But we're far from, if you want, pure, that kind of idea. And so it's a really interesting dynamic, exactly that. So we're all, and that's kind of a part of the whole process. Is I actually believe the end game was we're supposed to be a bunch of mutts. I really do believe that at the end of the day, it was about stirring up that DNA and getting it mixed up into something that's human.
Yeah.
And here we are. Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. And, thank you very much for your contribution to Speaking Truth to Power. I think that was a really important message and story, personal experience story to share, a teaching for people to keep in mind when they're trying to find their voice and their self-expression. So thank you very much for sharing that story. Also, when I was compiling all of my authors for the third book, The Brave Ascending Human Consciousness, and I remember having a conversation with you because I had just recently taken one of your metaphysical courses, your workshop courses. And I had this concept of bringing together all these different perspectives of what it means to ascend human consciousness. Because for a lot of people, especially people who aren't really that familiar with the spiritual work or spirituality in general, the concept is a little bit hard to grasp. So in my mind, ascending human consciousness means to help heal from our past traumas in a variety of different modalities, but also elevate our frequency and expand our awareness, by learning how to use our clairsenses, learning how to trust our intuition, and just activate that connection and communication with our own divine higher self. And that's my concept of ascending human consciousness. And when I was collecting all of these amazing authors and people who wanted to speak out about their perspective, I thought that you would have, first of all, we talked about this, so I knew that you understood the passion and the purpose behind the book series and behind the book. So I ended up asking you to write the foreword. And I'm so grateful because you went right back through the history of humanity and this concept of evolution. So thank you very much for the foreword that you did. But I also then asked you to share your own story and your own perspective and concept of ascending human consciousness. And you ended up doing that in this book. It's chapter number 8 in Ascending Human Consciousness, and it's called Galactic Origins. And I want to tell people, without giving too much of it away, I really want you guys to go out and get this book. But this story, it is unique in so many different ways. First of all, I gave all of the authors their own creative license to, tell their own story in their own way. And David, you just have this gift for storytelling and putting people right in that moment. And the story that you told it in a way where I wasn't quite sure if you were recalling a dream maybe, or if it was a personal experience and this is how you perceived it. So without giving it too much away, I really want people to go read this story in particular. Can you tell us what kind of an experience that was for you?
It's interesting because earlier in this conversation, we talked about the in-between, the words in between that I actually wanted completely for the reader. I wanted to dance with the reader in such a way that was unique and was different and was going to have an impact that they would carry, themselves. Yeah. And just the fact that you're coming forward and you're saying, was that real or wasn't it? Is exactly where I wanted that dance to take place. Does it make sense? I explored some things in this chapter that, talk about origin story from a variety of different cultures, a variety of different, places on our planet, in teachings. Everyone from some of the indigenous stuff to some of the Lemurian stuff to some of the, it all comes to Star Nation teachings, this origin story of where did we come from and why are we here in the first place? So we share that. But I on purpose again, and I thank you so much. When you asked me to write the foreword, I already kind of had a really kind of a concept because we'd spoken about what I wanted to share, about that foreword. And you and I both know it's about providing a really good step into this room so that the rest of the speakers, the rest of the authors can share, right? And they did such a bang up job. What's so cool about this coming in from this side of the fence is as an author writing for you, I didn't know what the others were going to write about. We don't know, right? We're going in completely in this space. And to be perfectly honest, there's some concepts and some things I share in the course of that chapter that I may not want to be sharing from someplace other than an altered state. They may not be received in the way that the person will receive them, just like we talked about earlier. So I can broadcast as many words as I want, but if it's not going to land in a way that can be communicated and it's palatable. And so I did decide to go with a slightly different direction with this, knowing and counting on and assuming that your other authors, which is exactly what they did, would do a bang up job covering all the stuff that I would normally say anyway. I went through the book afterwards myself and read through it and underlined all the stuff I would have said anyway. There's a bunch of underlined words, right? For sure. So awesome. Kudos to you for putting that team together who had that resonance. In other words, almost I was able to a part, being a bee as a part of the hive was making this resonance and this vibration that all of us were seem to be kind of tapped into, right? It's
Right.
fascinating. Well done. Kudos on you.
Well, thank you very much. But that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring together 20 authors that all had their own perspective. I didn't want everybody saying the same thing and coming from the same experiences. I wanted everybody sharing their own unique experiences so that when somebody read this book as a collective, as a whole, they would get all these different ways of looking at things and ways of healing and ways, and they would take from that what resonates for them. And I think that's the best way to get the big picture of an idea or concept, is to get, 20 different stories and get everybody to share their own personal experience, and then to have people resonate with whatever they can relate to, or they're intrigued, or they're curious about, because a lot of people don't know about breathwork facilitators and the power of our breath, or they don't know that you can actually heal with horses, or they don't know, all of these different concepts and ideas and the powers of our manifestation. Not everybody is exposed to all of that. So by bringing all of these authors together and sharing their own personal stories. And this is how we know it's the truth. It's their own story. They're not sharing propaganda or anything. They're sharing their own authentic story with integrity.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, because that's exactly the intention that I had for the entire book series. And this is why I have 20 authors and I don't have like 5. I'm not focusing on 5 like influential people. No, I'm focusing on 20 different perspectives of people that are relatable, that are coming from different backgrounds and different experiences, that have an idea or a concept that they want to contribute to the whole, to the book.
I agree. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
If I want to describe this coffee cup, let's say a whole bunch of us blind folk come in, and we get one little glimpse of this coffee cup. Now, from all directions, somebody from the bottom is going to look at it and say it's just a circle with a stem coming off the side. Someone from the side is going to say that's no circle. Someone from the top down looks, oh, look at that, there's some coffee in that bucket. And the person from the bottom is going to go, you're on drugs, right? Now, instead of us all arguing and hating on each other because we see a different thing, instead, why don't we share our story? And probably when we put all the pieces together like a puzzle, we'll get an idea, oh, it's a coffee cup, right? And we're just seeing it from all different directions.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't God kind of the same thing, right? And so every topic, and this is an analogy I've used for a long time in my world, because it is a good analogy, and because it also reminds me that the truth is an accumulation, right? I have bias. Yes, all I can do is share my own personal experience, and that's what I'm sharing in this lifetime. Is my own. I was born with this thing going on in my head. I learned some stuff, and I'm teaching that to others so that they can capitalize upon and control that other stuff, that same stuff that's going on in their head, right? And so it's just my journey, but that's all I have, and it might be completely diametrically opposed to what this side of the cup you're looking at, right?
Right.
And
but
so,
I love that analogy.
yeah, so I can sit down and shut up, and I can listen to your side. You know what I'm saying? And say, never mind. My truth is definitive, and it is the truth. You know what I'm saying? But definitively understanding it's a part of the whole truth, right? This left and right, this duality that's perpetuated on the planet is one of the things that we're actually getting rid of as we evolve as a species here. Is we truly are recognizing that there's so much more than just that or that. We're hoping to get to a place where it's that and that.
That's right. And this is so fascinating to me because I'm still learning about all of these different, I am still learning about these concepts of the dimensions, like 3D matrix of control, 3D reality, the 4th dimension, the 5th dimension. 5th dimension is close to heaven on earth, or the Christ consciousness. But the 4th dimension, and it's interesting that you say that, because the 4th dimension, as I'm learning about it, it's more about perspective and truth, and discovering all the different angles and ways of looking at things, knowing that somebody might have their truth and I might have my truth, and it doesn't make either one of us wrong if they're opposing. Right. There are different versions of the truth that are true. Correct. And yeah, so
now,
I mean, this is a big concept.
When we're talking about the third to the fifth dimension, I know that this is a labeling that's been going on for a while now, to trying to describe this evolution we're experiencing, right? Yeah. So keeping in mind the 3D and the 5D include a physical dynamic. There's a particle physical dynamic that take place there, but the fourth dimension it doesn't have that. It doesn't land there. I'll throw this little teaching out there. You might find this amusing as heck. The teachings I've received are that the Sasquatch and fairy folk and a number of other folks are from the fourth dimension, but they can't make babies there because the particles aren't the same. So they actually come here to the 3D world in order to propagate, in order to make babies, because it's here that there can actually be a physical connection and a thing can happen, right? The fourth dimension is pure. It's pure thought, it's pure esoteric, it's pure those vibrations and frequencies, which is why the Sasquatch can just phase at will, because that's its natural state. You understand, right? It only comes here to the 3D world for the sacs to make babies, right? Kind of idea. So take that teaching and expand it. And as humans are now stepping from the 3D into the 5D, there is this place in between that's pure esoteric, which again is why I wrote the story in the book the way I wrote it. Because I'm hoping to meet the person on that level, on that space, and hope to bridge it, so that they can have their own authenticity. I'm not trying to tell them what their authenticity is. I'm trying to guide them into what they're going to discover through that journey, right? So, for sure. And so you're so on the right track here. I know you get it. I know you get it, and. Yeah, this is going to be so much fun. I'm looking so much forward to more.
There is going to be another book. I'm not focused on the other book at the moment because I'm doing this video series, and also I don't know if I told you about this. Because of popular demand, I've decided to do audiobooks.
Perfect.
So, and I've also decided to do the narration myself. It's another skill. It's another thing that I'm going to start working on. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to put my passion, my energy behind all of these stories, because I'm the one that brought the stories together to share. I'm the one that wanted to share these stories with the world. So I'm going to read them out.
Absolutely. Conductor, maestro, we're your instruments, but you're the conductor. Absolutely.
Yeah, but the process of reading these stories, I'm absorbing so much of that intention and the power and the words that behind every story. It's like I'm a magnet right now for all of this amazing, inspiring, encouraging, empowering energy right now. It's a good place to be. Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, I'm in a good place. Yeah. So that's coming. There is the fourth book coming in the series, which will be done this year. And I'm also doing the audiobooks. But David, I also wanted to talk more about your metaphysical workshops and your programs.
Sure.
What do you have coming up? I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be interested in what you have to offer over the spring and the summer. Yep. So, and where can people get a hold of you and find out more?
Yeah, okay. I've been teaching metaphysics development, metaphysical development. I have a 4-year curriculum that was actually presented to the Private Career Training Institute and Academies of British Columbia a long time ago and got certified in that process. It's since evolved into something that is really big, but it's typically 4 years of teachings to get from somebody, and I don't care who you are, you're going to get me to do what, from zero to 4 years making a really comfortable, not just a living, but walking a lifestyle in the world. Now, there's lots of stops along the way. It's not as if, like nursing where you had to jump in and then 4 years later you get your certificate. There's so many stops along the way, and it's about discovering your authenticity, about who you are and what you're about. Completely motivated for selfish reasons. I was one of those weird kids born without any filters. So I see auras and, connect multidimensionally and all that stuff. And it was a struggle as a kid. And so I learned how to understand it, control it, work with it, that kind of scenario, so that later on, I could actually teach some of my friends how to see auras, and I wasn't so lonely in it, right? My experience was so isolated And at the same time, I knew damn well that every human on the planet can see auras too. I know you can. I know it, I know it, I know it, I know it, right? So, you know, how do I reach inside you and just tweak that little thing so that you can see the aura and we can have a conversation about it? And it expands our connection. You know what I'm saying? So completely selfishly motivated, I wanted connection with other weirdos. And we're all weirdos, right? So I started teaching my friends, and you know, and that expanded and that expanded until at some point I realized there's a whole planet of people who want these teachings, right? You know, and so I jumped into it. Now I've had a lifetime myself of receiving teachings. I was claimed by a very well-known medicine keeper, Reedy Peters, here on the 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐬, you know, territories. I was claimed and named by her, and she taught me lots of stuff. And I'm also a Reiki master. I got a PhD in metaphysical science out there. I've had an opportunity in my lifetime to gain a lot of knowledge, you know, packed it all in there. But most and more importantly was this experiential, you know, scenario that I had. I was actually doing stuff. And so I was able to meet people and take them through the procedures and protocols that weren't just in a book, but really hands-on. Really, you know, day one in your class, we're going to get you to do some what I call mental push-ups. You're going to do stuff. But I promise by the end of that class, you're going to have some results. You know, a couple classes later, you're seeing an aura for the first time in your lifetime forever. All your clairs open up, all your clairs become developed. At some point along the journey, the student discovers their, what do you want to call it, superpowers? You know what I'm saying? We all have these gifts, call them what you want, but until you're actually applied them, until you actually go to boot camp, is actually one of the courses I offer to my students first coming in. Okay, where do I start? And I say, okay, off to boot camp you go. It's 8 weeks. I got another one starting up here. I think that, yeah, at the end of the month, I got a brand new group, and I do small groups at a time because I want to be able to pay attention to each student as you're going through. Yeah. Keep in mind, when I'm teaching boot camp, I have my curriculum. It's going to be 2 months, you know, once a week we get together, do some training, and then you got some homework, and then we got some communing and connecting. And so it's this 2-month program, but in the whole time, I got this huge tickle trunk full of technique and protocols and things I can share. So I'm going to take one look at you and say, okay, well, I fired this at you. This was the response. Okay, I need to tweak that a little bit. So let's pull out an 8-socket, you know, wrench instead. And I apply that technique instead, right? So, you know, and well, that doesn't work. Okay, pull out the drum, right? Oh, that worked. Okay, right? You know, and so I
have a question.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to talk about, okay, so maybe this could be a future video, but I would really like to talk more about astral traveling, about using all of our powers in our dream state. Like I've got 4 different ways of flying and I'm all over the place. Like, how do I develop these skills? Actually, even as I said that, I don't know if I told you, I was astral traveling and I ended up on a base on the moon, and it's like a military base. It's a bunker, and they do, it's almost like Jedi training there. They teach people different skills and abilities, and I ended up there because I wanted to learn how to fly better, how to do my astral traveling more precisely. And I have this thing with my Zoom. I can't control my Zoom. Yeah, and I have to slow it down because I get lost. Like when I leave too far from the planet, I can't see, like I'm afraid of disconnecting from myself. So I zoom back into the planet, and then I don't know where I am. I can't see where Canada is. And I'm like, I'm trying to learn how to navigate better while I'm astral traveling, and how to slow down and be more conscious of the process. So I ended up on this like space base on the moon, where they do this kind of military training. And I think it's the Space Force or something, or the Earth Alliance or something. And yeah, I would love to do an entire interview or a video about the powers that we manifest in our dreams. And
yes is the answer. Yeah. To be honest, this is a part of the curriculum, obviously. Teaching people how to capitalize upon their different altered brain waves and their altered states, even while they're sleeping. For example, here's a teaching. Every 90 minutes, you should plot your sleep time so that it lands on a 90-minute increment. Instead of an 8-hour bit of sleep, you should get 7.5 hours. I promise that if you actually set for just 6 hours, you get a better rest than if you actually hit the 8. Because When you first fall asleep, there's enzymes and stuff that wash your brain. It's like defragging your computer, okay? And so when you first fall asleep, there's this enzymes and stuff that washes your brain that allows your brain to go through the whole process of alpha, beta, theta, all that stuff, basically go through the process. And then when REM sleep kind of starts to kick in, another enzyme washes it and allows for those very prophetic dreams, if you want. That's the best time to astral travel. That's the best time to absolutely connect into your lucid dreaming, your directive, all of that stuff. But simultaneously, there's also this wash that cleans the brain, cleans up after the defragmenting, the best way to put it, okay? So that when you actually finish that 90-minute cycle, you wake up refreshed at the end of a cycle, and you're ready to just get up and conquer the day. Too many people say, oh, I got another 7 minutes left. I'm going to hit the snooze button here and I'm going to re-go at it. And so what they do is they actually engage in the sleep cycle again, get just far enough to get some of that wash on their brain, and then blah, they're waking up again. And they might do it 2 or 3 times to themselves, and they're literally hitting their brain with this negative, nasty wash stuff. And then they wake up grumpy and wonder how that worked, right? So first thing we do is teach you how to, in your awakened and conscious state, but also in your sleep states, learn how to capitalize upon the different cycles and where and what happens where. Does that make sense? So there's actually a lot of science involved in it. Once you've got your basics, including things like nutrition, and are you getting sunlight every day, and then are you sleeping in total darkness versus having the night light? There's so many tricks and techniques I can share with people that will really capitalize on this muscle that you're hoping to develop, right? Once you've got that down pat, then we can do something with it, right? Then I can start sending you out, and we can start actually teaching you different techniques of astral traveling. Actually has risks involved with it, including what you're talking about, the tether can be screwed with, all of that stuff. So astral traveling in of itself is actually kind of a dangerous dynamic. There's benefits to astral traveling. There's a right time and a place for it, but we could also teach you other dynamics as well, shaman walking and remote viewing, bilocating. There's other techniques that you can, with complete and direct control. You can literally decide, instead of the zoom that you talked about, this out of control zoom, instead of having that happen, you're in total and direct control of your perspective, the where, what direction, what angle. And you're showing up with all of your senses, not just the clairvoyancy. Does it make sense? You're smelling information, you're feeling information. There's so much more information that you're also receiving in that moment.
Oh my goodness.
And so this is a part of the teaching. This is a part of boot camp teaching.
You have so much knowledge and wisdom to share. I mean, I'm sure we could talk for hours, and we've talked about talking for hours. But I just had this idea. I would love to do another video in the future, and we could call it like the courage to fly, because there are so many people who, they've told me that they've started astral traveling, but they get afraid because they don't want to lose their connection. They don't want to go too far from Earth, or they don't want to lose their body. And maybe a little bit of an explanation about this cord of attachment, the silver cord, the connection, and maybe a little bit of guidance would help encourage people, or give them the courage to explore, like an oneironaut.
Well, in the astral traveling class that I teach, before COVID, I wasn't doing anything online. It was all face-to-face and in person. So the astral traveling course that I put together inevitably ended up as a bit of a sleepover. You show up in your jammies and your pillow, because we're going to get you astral traveling that night. Okay, so we're actually literally, because what happens is when you're racing through delta, because your brain is conditioned to go to delta and go to sleep. Okay, what you need to do is capitalize upon that moment of transition, so that you can actually on purpose say, I'm going to astral travel tonight, on. And it happens at your will. Does it make sense, right? So you come to class after, and through plenty of teachings, we get you to a place of, okay, get all comfy. We're going to put you to sleep, sleep, right? I'll hide 3 glass jars, somewhere typically in the building. I'm saying a bigger building, or maybe even outside in the yard if I don't have a big building. And I'll put something in the jar, a stuffed animal, a book of matches, something, and I'll hide them. And my job is to get you out of your body in your astral form, literally during the course of that class. Your job is to find those glass jars. At some point, we're going to wake you up about, 35, 40 minutes, into it, right? We're going to wake you up and pull you back. And then you, without convincing with anybody, write down what you saw. and we're going to produce these glass jars. It's fascinating how many people saw exactly what was in those glass jars. Right? So,
Wow.
and so the evidence, the proof, the tangible, these are the kind of courses that we've been offering, pre-COVID. Now with this, COVID monstrosity scenario, I had to, we're smack dab in the middle of an evolution right now. Humans right now literally are exploding and expanding, becoming so much more than they were. Again, there's a transhumanism origin story taking place simultaneously. There's so much happening, including one of the reasons I'm on this planet is to get these teachings to you, right? So, you inviting me to participate, to share some of these teachings with the planet is my calling. It's my purpose. It's why I'm here. I had a near-death experience when I was 11. Long story short, basically, I decided, and here I are doing it, right? So, for sure. And so fulfilling my purpose is to help you to be able to astral travel like a badass, right? That, totally, because there are inherent dangers. But if you master the technique of astral traveling, there's stuff there too, in a good way, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, look, okay, so I've been flying in my dreams. I don't know if it's necessarily astral traveling, but I've been flying in my dreams since I was a child. Only recently in the last couple of years do I feel like I've been astral traveling, but I've been flying. I've got 4 different ways to fly. And the reason I developed the ability to fly in my dreams is because I've always been a very lucid dreamer. And when something scared me, I intensely wanted to get away from it. So I would either Superman or I would jump like a flea from one mountain to another, or I would levitate. Okay,
it does sound, to be honest, like it's more lucid dreaming still versus the astral traveling phenomenon.
Right, when I was a child.
Yeah,
but I developed these skills because, like, I would have something wake me up when I was a child. They would wake me up, and I was a very lucid dreamer, so I felt like it was real, and it would pick me up and throw me against a wall. It's like a darkness, some kind of demon or something. And it happened a lot until I started learning how to levitate and learning how to stop myself from hitting the wall, turn around and say, "What do you want?" And as soon as I did that, it would just like go away, because it didn't want me confronting it, because it was trying to scare me. And once I told it I wasn't afraid, it just kind of disappeared. And that's how I learned how to fly 4 different ways in my dreams. But it's evolved over my lifetime. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've really been even leaving Earth or traveling all over the place.
When you said that, I went, she's leaving the planet? That's actually kind of an advanced skill set. You know what I'm saying? Like, for you to actually be in that space where that's where you're playing with astral traveling, it means you've been working on this muscle for a while. For sure.
But the concept of flying, when you're just learning how to fly, in my mind, it represents your unlimited potential. Like, if you can fly in your dreams, there is nothing that you can't do in the 3D world, in your conscious awakening. There's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it. And I can fly in 4 different ways. I've had an amazing life. And I really do believe, like, I'm an empowered woman. I believe that there's nothing I can't do if I put my mind to it. So, and this is why developing these skills, even in the dream state, they're so powerful for affecting your everyday reality and your mindset and what you believe is possible and what you believe you can accomplish. So this is why I want to share all of this with everyone. And I think that we will have to do a separate video all about dream state,
library.
Developing our skills. Yeah, I don't want to give all your content away, but I know that people should connect with you.
You can try my website, which is davidpilz.com, davidpilz.com. It's just my business card, little Wix, account at this point. I used to be, big, now I've got to a place where most of my stuff is word of mouth. I don't advertise in the paper, none of that stuff. I don't need to. My clients come because I've made a powerful influence in someone's life. They thought so and they told 2 friends, and that's been my business for the last 30 plus years. And so you can catch me on my website. I do social media all over the place. Facebook, I have a Facebook group called White Star Teachings. That's probably where you're going to have access initially to some of these teachings at this point in time. I do have 𝐦𝐸𝐤𝐿 website name, and I'm just building the website now because we're gonna again, I never thought to take some of these teachings online. To be perfectly honest, pre-212, a lot of these teachings were really difficult to anchor into people. It took time, it took presence, it took, you know, focus and discipline. But I swear to goodness, and that's all a part of the origin story, is that post 212, we as a species are different. And I promise that what took me 6 hours to get across to somebody, I can now do in about 6 minutes. You know, and humans, people are receiving this, you know, like a sponge now, whereas they were curious previous. Now that they're undergoing this evolution, this is what we're becoming. And people go, oh, that's what I need. Oh, I didn't even know I needed it, but there it is, right? You know, and so that's what I'm up to. So the White Star teachings are going to be a bridge there. And then once you get into boot camp, you get treated like an alumni, and there's, you know, some different access, different layers of teachings and all of that, you know, kind of unfolding. The bottom line, if you just Google me, I'm there. I've been in this industry, and if you just David Pilz, David the Oracle Pilz, you know, White Star, Equisol, you Google me, you'll find me, you know, totally. Again, I do have a boot camp class coming up, starting fresh, and again, limited you know, amount of people because I want to keep it hands-on. Some of the other classes, I've got a class coming up on Master Tarot as well, and some of the other divination, you know, tools available. Because this one specifically is tarot. I got a whole bunch of people who just are really digging the tarot teaching.
Ooh, I just got my new tarot cards, and I would love to take.
Beautiful, totally, yes. I promise this class will shortcut your reading skills dramatically. You know, I'm kind of like, I've been reading myself, got my first deck when I was 11 years old. I've been reading myself, you know, the whole time. And I promise spending a little bit of time with me will shortcut your connection to the deck. You know, it just makes so much more sense how it unfolds. And we talk about the archetypes, and it just makes just a kind of layman it. One of the things I do gooder than anybody else, it seems, is I can take this weird metaphysical stuff and put it into a language that people understand, which again is about communicating, right? You know, and so that's what I do best. That's what an oracle does, I would think, you know, for sure. And so track me down, and yes, I have a private practice. I do readings and, you know, treatments and personal tutorials and, you know, all that stuff. And so just track me down, and I'm sure we can find somewhere for you to, you know, get your best you out of it.
Yeah, you know, you have so much to offer, and I think this is definitely the time. This is when people are being drawn to this kind of information. They have this inner calling. And I just want to say thank you again for everything that you're doing, because you answered the calling in this lifetime to bring forth this information for all of the people who resonate with it, and all of the people who want to learn and grow and evolve and ascend their human consciousness. So thank you very much for what you're doing. I think it's also very, very noble and very brave of you, because you're also standing on the front lines. You're one of the you're bringing forth this information that, like you said, in the past, past couple decades even, has not been well received or very popular. So you're at the forefront of a movement of ascending consciousness and expanding our awareness and elevating our frequency on the planet. And this is what you've come here for. So yeah, this is why you're here, and this is why I'm here. And I fully believe that I've stepped into my dharma, like my reason for being here, with passion and purpose. And this is what I'm doing, and this is what makes me feel good, and it makes my soul sing. And yeah, so I'm just going to keep on moving in this direction of what feels good and what feels right. And yeah, I mean, I've always believed in all the good things coming, but yeah, there's a lot happening right now. And I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to your content and your information.
I agree.
Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
You know, just I know the whole world's a mess right now, but I promise my crystal ball, you know, if it actually works, a crystal ball, you know, and I think it does. My crystal ball says that all this nonsense is over in 224. You know, the prophecies and the teachings I received talked very clearly about between 220 and 224, there was going to be this dramatic, powerful change in the planet. And in 219, I wondered how they were going to pull that off. In 220, I knew exactly how they were going to pull that off, and it was obvious to me. So,
and in 221, you're like, they're pulling it off. And in 222, you're like, they're still pulling it off. I can't believe this.
Not even just pulling it off, but the entire draconian system has to be dismantled, and it's being done as gently as we can, but it is being dismantled.
Yeah.
And in that process of getting rid of the old and stepping into this new process, you know, it's like, you know what they say, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. It's the hallways that are the bitch, right? You know, and we're in the hallways right now. And so grace, 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 grace. Okay. If you can do nothing else but master and muster your own grace, and in spite of the fact that there's a lot of reasons for you to be not chill, you know, I promise that 2024, this not only is the nonsense over, but there's so many blessings on this planet. But we still got some jumps, and we still got some stuff to catapult through between here and there. Yeah. And so you're in cocoon stage right now. Appreciate that. You know, be okay with that. You know, the past is history, the future is a mystery, today's a gift. You know, the present, that's present that it is, right? And so really capitalize of living in the now, living in the moment, and muster as much grace as you can in every situation. It'll matter to you later, you know, how much grace that you walked with at this point in time. And I love you all, and anything you got on the go, you know, Lana, etc. If you got something on the go that you think I can help you with, I'm here. That's why I'm here. And,
so much. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the whole entire planet. And thank you for all of your contributions. And thank you for your wisdom. And for everyone else, please connect with David if you feel drawn to these teachings and this wisdom. A lot of people are looking for healing and looking for expansion, looking for understanding of what's going on in the world right now. And I want to assure you that all of the answers to everything that you've ever needed to know in this lifetime are already within you. And David can help you figure out how to communicate with that voice within, how to draw it out. Yes. Okay, so, and then if you haven't already, please, you can find these books at www.Lady Braven of the Pride. All three of these books, there will be a fourth book. And like I said, there is an audiobook coming out. There's also ebooks coming out in the very near future. So stay tuned for what's coming out, and there will be a fourth book this year. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Please like this video and share this video with somebody that needs a little bit of inspiration and encouragement at this particular time, somebody that wants to find out more about developing their clairsenses or metaphysical skills, and somebody that needs a little bit of encouragement to be brave with everything happening in the world. And also subscribe, please, to Lady Braven of the Pride, because we have courageous conversations almost every day. And we all know that courage is contagious. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.